Long ago is it since a picture like this would have been either abhorred or ridiculed. But today, the education of small children in methods of self-preservation is recognized as a humane proceeding.
U.S. citizen returning to the United States in the previous 14 days will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Mr. Alonzo Bodden.
Woo!
Hello.
Famous
How's everybody?
comedian.
Good.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is my second one of these today. I did a jazz brunch earlier today, which was
Awesome.
really interesting to do via remote. And I am now, so you're the second one I'm doing where I'm on Zoom and Facebook Live at the same time. My brother is very much a techie, and he's one of those people that has 3 computer monitors set up and he can switch between it. And I said, man, I'm going to have to do that now. I'm going to have to get the double monitor set up and everything so I can read questions, chat, and talk all at the same time. I figure I should have it all set up the week before quarantine ends. That's when I will be technologically advanced enough.
I think you got a little time.
Yeah, I'm good.
I don't know if we're going to be going anywhere soon. So you have a little time, but by the end of this, you'll be ready for the next disaster, right?
I have time because I don't live in Georgia. That's why I have time.
Amen. So now you're like one of the busiest men in show business, right? Like I know you travel all the time. You're always on shows. I heard you yesterday morning. You know, I avoid the news at all costs right now, but I did have NPR on yesterday in my car. And what am I hearing? Wait, don't tell me. And who's on Wait, don't tell me? Wait, don't tell me. Alonzo Bodden is on Wait, don't tell me, which I think you have to be a member of Mensa to be in, right?
I love doing Wait, and there are different episodes. Some episodes are very NPR, and then other episodes are very ordinary, I should say. But anyway, you know, the thing about Wait, I am a news junkie. I've always been a news junkie. I like reading the news. So I have a vague idea of what's going on and what people are talking about. And that allows me to do Wait. The biggest thing I learned, and I learned this on the show right away. I figured it out. It's more important to be funny than to be right. That's the whole key. As long as you're funny, we'll figure out how to get to the right answer. But you know, you just can't worry about being right all the time. So I'm doing this, like I told you, I got 16 devices now, and I forgot the name of our guest this week. She is a great actress, but she's a real actress. Let's see, Christine Baranski, right?
Oh yeah.
So Christine is like heavy duty. Like that's her work is not on my radar. You know what I mean? Like she was singing something she did with Steve Sondheim, I believe it's pronounced. And so in other words, this was a very NPR moment.
Yeah.
And I sat it out. I'm sitting there quietly. Peter's talking to her, Amy, they know all it. But I also did the episode where we had George Clinton on, and he was entering the Smithsonian, right? George Clinton of Parliament Funkadelic. They were putting the mothership into the Smithsonian, at which point I was cool and Peter had nothing. Peter don't know nothing about the funk. I handled the funk. So
you got the funk?
Yeah. That's the thing about the show. You just never know. You never know how it's going to be. And, you know, yesterday when we were talking about remember we were doing the pre-talk, and I told you I have accidentally, like I've had accidental success.
Yes.
Wait is one of them. The first time I did Wait, I'd never heard of the show. I'd never listened to the show. I was just doing some panel news show in Chicago, and I killed it. And I think it's because I didn't know, like all I knew was they were going to be asking about the news and I had to be funny. And I didn't know it's one of NPR's biggest shows of all time. I had no idea how big it was. So that was good because I wasn't nervous. I didn't have time to be nervous or anything.
Well, you're great on it. I thought, wow, even though you were wrong a few times, but I would have been wronger because I don't know. But your laugh is so infectious that it just makes me laugh when I hear you cracking up. I thought it was just awesome. But
Well, we definitely have a lot of laughs on the show between each other. So I'm glad you enjoyed it, and people love it. It is. I am recognized now at least as much for my voice as for people seeing me, because so many people listen to Wait Wait. Like back when we used to grocery shop without masks and gloves and weapons,
can
um,
hardly remember.
people would be an aisle over and they'd come over, they'd be like, "You're Alonzo, I heard you. I just heard your voice. I knew it was you." So that's kind of cool.
That's true. And so, I mean, it's just great. But you talking about being funny instead of being right sometimes. How long have you known that
Um,
you were funny?
I
Like,
have
when did that all
always been
start for
funny.
you?
My mother was the funniest person I've ever known. We grew up in a house full of smartasses, and if you said anything stupid or did anything stupid, somebody saw it, okay? And you knew it. You knew it was coming back to you. But no, my mom used to, we would talk and we would laugh, and I could always make people laugh. What happened, the way I became a comic, I was working at McDonnell Douglas. My first career was in aerospace. I spent 10 years as a mechanic, 3 years training new people. And I took this job training new mechanics. I got in front of the class, right? And that's people's number one fear, right? Lars, speaking in front of a group. It was the most natural thing in the world to me. It didn't bother me a bit. And now I'm up there talking, teaching, making them laugh and all of this. And I decided I wanted to try comedy. And I did, and I never looked back. So it was the making people laugh wasn't the hard part. The public speaking part was the part I didn't know about.
Ah, wow. And then, I guess you live in LA. Did you grow
Yeah.
up there? So you,
No, I
yeah.
grew up in New York. I actually grew up in St. Albans, which is in Jamaica, Queens.
Okay.
I grew up there before it was the hood. We didn't know it was the hood. And then Fitty mentioned it in a song, and we were like, "What? We live in the hood? We didn't even know." It's a working class black neighborhood. I'll tell you the interesting thing about where I grew up. So much hip hop came out of my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I used to tell my mother, "This is what happened. You made me go to school. Had you let me hang out on the corner, I might have been buying you a house by now." You see, Southeast Queens gave us everyone from Run DMC to LL Cool J to a
Yeah.
Tribe Called Quest to
Yeah.
Ed Lover and on and on. That was all going on around where I grew up. So, but anyway, I left New York and went to LA to work in aerospace. So, as I said, I was already in LA doing aerospace. My comedy career, I started in LA because I didn't know I wasn't supposed to.
I was going to say,
That's,
yeah, most people start off in New York and then they go to LA,
yeah,
right?
you're supposed to start, well, you're actually supposed to start somewhere small. Like you're supposed to start in like Kansas City or Ames, Iowa, or, somewhere like that, and then work your
Northampton.
way up. Yeah. And I missed all of that and just started. I started at the bottom of the top.
Amazing. And then you win Last Comic Standing. And that was, I mean, in those days, what year was that? That was
It was '05. It was
05.
'05. But I'm going to back you up a bit because
Okay.
I love Last Comic, and Last Comic was my introduction to America. That's what that show was.
Yeah.
But my big break came in 1997. This is another one of those where I didn't really know. Okay. So I got invited to Just for Laughs in Montreal. It's the biggest comedy festival in the
Yeah.
world.
That's a hard one.
And I was doing New Faces, right?
Hmm.
Now, I knew what Just for Laughs was. I knew I wanted to get a deal. I'm doing my show, and I had this joke, right? And I said, first of all, is this clean or can we
Anything you want.
cuss? All right,
Yeah.
because I want to tell the story as was, because it's I'll always remember this moment because this is when I became a comic, right? So I'm doing New Faces. So I had this joke. I said, "I don't like hockey," Right now, this is in Montreal, in Canada. So right away, the crowd's the boo, boo, and I'm like, shut up, shut up. I don't like hockey because the only thing black is the puck, and every time I look, they hitting it with a stick. I said, now golf, on the other hand, right? So the joke kills, and I do my set, right? My manager comes basically running down the stairs, and he's like, "You are about to make a ton of fucking money." And the key
Wow.
word is ton of fucking. He said, when you told the audience at Just for Laughs to shut up, every industry person looked at the stage and said, "Who
Uh-huh.
is that?" Now, I don't know. That's my comic instinct, right?
Amazing.
But I don't know that I wasn't supposed to do it. And then I did a second set, and I did a different set. And they were like, "Oh my God, you did two different sets in New Faces." I'm like, well, 7 minutes. I got 14 minutes. See, being naive helped me. And I ended up getting a deal, and I got money, and I was able to quit the day job. So I always loved Just for Laughs. That's where I started. But the more important thing, the bigger thing was suddenly comics were like, I was a comic. So now I'm talking, like, I remember Dom Herrera, he hosted, and my first job had been, I had been a doorman at the Laugh Factory. And he's like, wow, I didn't know you were a comic. I was just thinking the doorman's kind of funny. And I made friends with Chris
Wow.
Titus and Joe Rogan and all of these people who were at the festival because I had seen them at the Laugh Factory. But now, you know, I've switched over. Right now, I'm a comic. And so that was my first big break. Then 10 years later, well, not even 10, about 7, 8 years later, was when I did Last Comic Standing. And that's when I got the, you know, network exposure and recognition. And I know you're going to be jealous, Laura, tens of thousands of MySpace friends. All right. I was killing it.
MySpace.
That's
I
right. I was
know.
killing it on MySpace because in '05, that was all we had. We had MySpace and we had the message board for the show. And
Yeah,
Heffron,
that's it.
John Heffron, who's a buddy, and he won season 2. I won season 3. We go back a long way, but he said, "You know how much someone had to hate you to create a screen name, create a password, then log into NBC, then get
Right.
another screen name and password and log into Last Comic Standing, and then hate you." See, it
Right.
wasn't like now where you just go on Twitter or Instagram and hate me instantly. No, back then
It
they
was
had to
work.
earn the right to hate you. Our trolls were dedicated. All right.
That's right. That's right. It's the old days.
You
You know,
you were.
not to
I'm sorry, Laura. You
Yeah.
go
you
ahead.
No.
were you, 2 year in 2008. You were a judge on Last Comic Standing,
Yes, I was.
and
Here
I
it comes.
auditioned for you
Where did you audition? What city did you audition in?
in New York. I
Oh,
got
so
it.
you're part of that.
I got an appointment though, so I
Oh,
felt
okay.
kind of like, ooh.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you about that because the interesting thing about being a judge, I was a judge for season 5. That's when I found out how big the show was. See, when you're doing the show, and you know this, you don't see everyone who auditions. You just see the people in your world, in your circle. Well, when I was a judge and we traveled around the world, we went around the United States. We also went to the UK, Australia, whatever. And I see all these people auditioning. I was like, wow, I beat out a lot of people, you know, so that felt kind of good. The judging thing was interesting to be on the other side of the table. That was interesting. I was judging comics who I had opened for, who were auditioning for the show. And
Wow.
that's a very weird thing when someone you used to open for and you're like, sorry, you didn't get it. And what would happen, a lot of them, they just chose the wrong material. The arbitrary part of the show is you have to be funny in that 3 minutes or that 5 minutes. So you could just pick the wrong part of your act and do it. And it doesn't work. It doesn't mean you're not funny. The big strike, the big one we missed, no disrespect to you, Kim. I know you were a big one we missed, but we passed on Lil Rel. Lil
Wow.
Rel tried out in Minnesota and was like, Lil Rel, he doesn't even have a name. He's got a nickname. Who the
Oh
hell
my
is
God.
Lil Rel? And you know, I saw him years later and I was, listen, man, I want to apologize. And he just laughed. It was cool. But yeah, you never know. You never know how these things are going to go.
Rock and roll will never last, you know.
Will Stein said,
Yeah.
we're all paying attention. Thank you, Will. That
Yeah,
is my
he
my
is.
first special and my podcast, Who's Paying Attention. Anyway, I'm
That's
sorry, Laura. Keep
that's
going.
awesome.
I
No,
talk too much.
no, you don't. You're great. This is a great interview. I love this to be a kind of meta. But not to minimize. I mean, it's something that you won last comic standing, but not to minimize Just for Laughs, because I don't know how long you were even doing comedy at that point, but it's not easy to get into Just for Laughs. It's a hard competition.
I had been doing it for 4 years when I did
Wow.
Just for Laughs. And yeah, and again, it's the combination. George Wallace told me something once, and he was one of my mentors, and I still love George, but he said, everyone gets a shot. The key is to be ready when your shot comes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it was, because I've always been grinding. I love this business. I love the creativity of it. I wish I was better at the marketing side, but I've always been good at the grind and the writing and the work. So when these things came up, like I was ready to do it. And I didn't have any fear, because one thing, I didn't know how big it was, and I didn't walk in thinking, oh, my whole life depends on this. I always take it as, yeah, this is one set. I got to do a set. Like when I was doing Last Comic, there was one point where I was like kind of nervous, and a couple of people, my brother in particular was one of them, who talked me down. And then I would remember, like, wait a minute, it's just a 5-minute set. I've done 5 minutes. And
Hmm.
that's what I would be telling myself going on. Do 5 minutes. Don't. You can't think there's 10 million people watching this, because your mind will explode. So I've just like, I'm doing 5 minutes for this audience, and the director and the crew are going to put it on TV. That's the way I would look at it.
You're an excellent coach. I wonder where you got your mentoring from, because you seem to know exactly how to tell yourself to get your best performance.
There were a number of people. George was one of them. I learned, again, being in LA, right? I was
Mhm.
learning from some of the best, intentionally or unintentionally. So when I was a doorman at the Laugh Factory, the people who would come through on a regular basis: George Wallace, Dom Herrera, Damon Wayans, George Lopez, Chappelle, uh, Chris Tucker, and all the Def Jam people at the time. So I was getting this incredible education watching these guys work every night. That was part of it. And then I don't know, the coaching part. I'm not even sure where that came from. Like, I don't know if it wasn't necessarily any one person. It was different lessons from different people and
Okay.
from life, the thing about not making it too big, that was more of a life lesson, because anytime you make something, this is it, all or nothing, then it's going to be too big to do, and,
Yeah.
and if you talk to anyone who's done something like that, I don't think they thought of it like Kim. You're wearing the Obama hat, right? I love Barack,
Hmm.
but when he did that speech in 2004, if you remember that speech at the Democratic convention, I don't think he walked in saying, well, tonight I'm going to become president. But
Yeah, yeah.
honestly, but he did. That was the speech that changed everything. That after that speech, the whole world knew who Barack Obama was and was like, wow, But I don't think before he made that speech, he had that thought. So when I walked on stage with my dick jokes back in 97, I had no idea that these dick jokes are going to get me out of a day job. I had no idea.
So amazing. That's so awesome. So you sent, when we were preparing for the show, you sent us some pictures. You sent us a picture of you and Don Rickles, which I don't think we can pull up right now because we're not there yet on technology. But who are some of your heroes? Like, I know Don Rickles is a big hero of
Well,
mine.
here's the thing. I've been fortunate enough to have worked with a few legends.
Yeah.
Okay, Rickles was a legend. To
Oh
work
yeah.
with Don Rickles and to be backstage and have Don Rickles make fun of you to this day brings chills and tears to my eye. I mean, it's, as a comic, it's just an amazing moment. I got to work with Phyllis Diller a few times, and
Oh,
I tell people,
wow.
like, when you work with Phyllis Diller, every time you do it, it's the first time, because she completely forgets the last time. She was
Right.
85 to 88
Right.
years old. She's like, did I? No, but she was great. Um, Rodney Dangerfield used to come to the Laugh Factory in his bathrobe, and just go up and do sets, you know. So there were legends, but as far as the people, it's so crazy to me. I mean, you know, I know Dave Chappelle, like I know Dave. That's
Mhm.
crazy in my mind, but not, you know, I'm not pretending we're best of friends, but I know him. We've worked together. Dane Cook, you know, I was with Dane when Dane was becoming Dane. We were working together every week at a club in Hollywood called Dublin's. Tiffany, I met Tiffany when she was 17. When
Wow.
she was 17, coming to the Laugh Factory to go to camp, and you know, and she was this cute, funny girl with no filter, which is true to this day. There's no
Right.
filter, but she's 100% who she is. I could go on, and like I said, the Wayans, you know, I've worked with them, opened for you know, Jay Leno's a buddy of mine. I mean, to say that is crazy to me, but he is. Me and Jay, you know, and I do his show. I did the Tonight Show with him. I do his car show with him. That list goes on and on. Joe Rogan, I just did Rogan's podcast. Me and Joe go back almost 20 years. And what I love about that one with these guys is the respect comics have for each other, right? This business, I call it a lottery business because you never know. You get one break, you get one thing, something hits.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're worth $10 million, $20 million. So it's not like golf. It's not like you
Right.
score by the leading money winner, right? But it's the respect. So when I get to work with these, and I've worked with, and I know some of the best and greatest in the business, like I say, George Wallace, and just on and on. When you get to work with them and you have their respect, and
Mhm.
you, of course, respect them, but on stage, it's like we're equals, not because we both got booked, because we both went out and we were funny. We,
Yes.
you know, that there's a respect that comics have for each other as funny that is separate from being rich or famous or anything else. Ken Jeong, you know,
Right.
I knew Ken when he was still a doctor, when comedy was
Wow.
his night job and being a doctor was his day job. And it's good he got into comedy because he was a horrible
It's a bad
doctor.
doctor.
Dead people everywhere. He was a terrible doctor. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's so funny.
But so many people like that. So I'm just, you know, when you ask who I know, it's crazy to me who I know. And then the other side, another thing, I'm a big jazz fan, and I've been doing
Okay.
these jazz cruises for years, and I've gotten to know some of the, literally, I know some of the greatest musicians on earth, and
And
that's another phenomenal thing.
I'm
That's
glad
all.
you brought that up. Yeah. I'm sorry, Kim. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I have a question. This is
Yeah,
sort of a hypothetical thing.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm just curious. I'm curious what you would say. So post-pandemic, I'm just giving you a scenario. Post-pandemic, it's the first comedy show, and you get to pick 3 other comedians to be on the show with you, dead or alive. Who's on the show with you?
Wow, great question. Dave Chappelle, George Carlin. Now I can only pick one more.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
it.
so difficult to pick who the third one would be.
Or maybe someone in
Man.
the wing.
Well, no, I'm trying to think who would the third one be on that. I would pick Chappelle and Carlin, and
I thought Rich
I
I'm
would
was
be
going
in
to
supposed.
first.
say,
No,
I
here's the
know.
thing. See, I'm supposed to say that. I'm supposed to say that, and it's no disrespect to Richard Pryor. And I'm thinking he's my third, but I'm going through my mental Rolodex. But I'm a social commentary guy. In the
Hmm.
world of social commentary, George Carlin was the
Yep.
most brilliant person ever. And currently, Dave Chappelle sees the world in a way no one else does. When he does his comedy, it's Dave always has something different to say that you didn't expect and you didn't see.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and
Definitely.
he's so comfortable and confident in who he is. You know, I tell young comics, right? Because I became one of the old guys about 8 or 9 years ago. I didn't realize I became one of the old guys till the young guys started asking me questions and I knew the answers. And I was like, oh shit, I'm an old guy. What Dave did when he did the Emmett Till story and that joke on that, can you imagine in the middle of your set telling the story of Emmett Till and then making it
No.
funny again? One of the saddest,
Wow.
harshest, a story that's going to leave people angry, brokenhearted, bring up one of the worst events in the history of the United States and civil rights and racism. And then, yeah, and then I'm gonna go back to funny.
Yeah, that
Like,
was
wow,
brilliant.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, to do
brilliant.
that's the kind of thing that Dave does that no one else could do, that what he did with that. So, you know, Richard would be great as an escape. Richard would be an escape. But I think to talk about, see, I'm thinking, who would I want to talk about the pandemic now that we were on the backside of it? That's why I bring up Chappelle and Carlin.
Okay.
So, you know, honestly, there's so many. I don't know who.
Is there enough
Any
mic
of
left
these,
for anybody
and
else?
any of these, right, would mean that I'm not on the show. Like, I got bumped by all of them. You know what I mean? There's you know, Louis Black is so good with politics. To watch Louis Black do 20 minutes on Donald Trump handling the pandemic would be the greatest thing you ever saw. Granted, Louis would have an aneurysm and a heart attack at the same time. It would be his last show. But imagine how insanely funny that would be, you know. So,
what about Chris Rock? Chris is political.
Yeah, you know, Chris is, and again, see, this is what I'm saying.
Mooney.
So anyone you put on, and Paul too angry. Paul would be
you
too
think
angry.
so? Too angry? I love him.
But Chris, see, anyone you put on the show means you have to take someone off the show. So yeah, of course, Chris would be great. But again, see, I'm looking at different comics, right?
Okay.
So if I got Chappelle, then I could, and then I put Chris. Do you understand? Now I'm getting, not that they're the same, but similar points of view. Right. And I'm looking at different. I'm trying to do 3 different ones. Kim, I've been booking this shit for a long time. You don't just walk in telling me how to book my pandemic comedy show. Because I was actually thinking, what woman's voice would I love? And I'm gonna see, you two didn't even think about it. And that's what I was thinking about. So I'm gonna throw in.
I knew you were gonna say that, Wanda Sykes.
Yeah, because that is, you know, Wanda told me something last summer. We were in Montreal, and this blew my mind. So I'm talking with Wanda, Cristela Alonzo, and a couple other women. I think Ida Rodriguez. I think Ida was. I'm not sure, but anyway, we're talking about women in comedy, and they're talking about the women aren't funny thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought we had settled that. Like, I know in the early 2000s, I remember when this was a thing, I said, I thought we said, and they're telling me like, no, it's still going on, blah, blah, blah. And Wanda said, someone said to her that she is really funny for a woman. And I'm like,
Wanda
isn't
said
that to Wanda? No, someone said that
to Wanda. Like, okay.
To Wanda Sykes? No, Wanda's pretty funny for a human. Wanda's pretty funny for someone who can speak. Like Wanda is so, she's one of the funniest people in the game.
Yeah, we need a versus.
The idea that you would tag her with for a woman. There are some where you're going to put for a woman or whatever, and you may not know or whatever. Okay, but not Wanda Sykes. That's like, LeBron's pretty good for a basketball player.
Yeah.
No. Wow, we got so many questions for you, and I don't want to minimize.
No, let's do it like last comic. We'll do it rapid fire.
Rapid fire. We're going to open up the room, but I wanted to say that our mutual friend, we were talking a little bit about music, and then we kind of changed it, but Ramon Islas, who was one of our guests a few weeks ago, says hi. He's saying, yo.
The funniest illegal alien I know. For someone who is in the country illegally and ducking at all times, that Ramon Islas. But as long as immigration doesn't find, no. Shit. Me and Ramon have had so much fun on and off stage. And to the extreme right-wing angry people, he is not illegal. He's an American. He's
an American.
He's in Chicago, for God's sake. He's in the band Chicago. You grew up listening to that band, so leave him alone. No, he's a great guy. We have laughed on and off stage a ton.
Yes. So before we open it up to the room, this is a quarantine call-in show. For those just joining, please remember to mute your mics and make sure your vibrating phone doesn't come anywhere near your microphone or your blender, for that matter. I wanted to hand it over to Tim Lovett. He has a question, and then let's open the room for the gallery, okay? Tim?
Okay, yeah, I'm here. I do have a question. So it turns out that you were in like all of my favorite things, like acting wise, like Bringing Down the House, the Girl Next Door, Californication, Power Rangers. It's like, so I just wanted to get your take, on that. Who are some of your favorite
Okay,
actors that you worked with?
you flatter me. You flatter me because I honestly I've never thought of myself as an actor. There was a time when I was taking acting lessons and I was starting to get it. And then my comedy career really started taking off with Last Comic and everything. And my acting teacher said, "Go do that." She said, "That's your love. Go do that." So I play a security guy. Like, I protected the biggest in the business. Okay. And bringing down the house, I was the security guy at the house party for Queen Latifah, who didn't let Steve Martin in. So I got to work with both of them. The girl next door, I tell everyone, if you're going to play a security guard, do it at the scene at the porn convention, because why wouldn't you? So that was fun. I got to protect Leslie Nielsen as a secret service agent in Scary Movie, but a monster. I did a number of monsters, and that was totally random. I was a truck driver for the show. That was my day job before comedy paid off. I was a truck driver for the show Power Rangers, and one of the sound guys heard me talking and was like, "Whoa, you should do a monster." And I was like, as opposed to driving a truck, yes. So I love talented actors. Uh, again, talking about people who I know who I have no business knowing. Jamie Foxx, that is a talent beyond belief. Jamie can, act, music, comedy. He can do all of that. He's pretty amazing. Obviously Denzel and Tom Hanks and those guys. Idris, is it Idris or Idris? Whichever way, it doesn't matter. Idris Elba, like, women just see, we've just lost all the women just then. When you say the name, they have to check out for a moment and then they come back. Look at Laura. Wipe your lips, Laura. Wipe your lips. The drool is showing. But he's a great
married.
actor.
He's
He's
married.
fun. Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is a great actor. I love Brad Pitt because sometimes you get Brad Pitt actor and then sometimes you get Brad Pitt movie star. You know what I mean? It's two different things and he can do both. So there's a ton of actors, Tim. As far as comics who can act, Craig Robinson is funny to me. I already mentioned Ken
Oh
Jeong.
God, yes. Oh my
Ken is
God.
always funny. Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart plays the same little character, but he always makes it funny in whatever situation, So I love how Kevin does that. Tiffany Haddish, zero filters, no fucks given,
Love
makes
her.
her funny as hell. I love Tiff. Queen Latifah
Hmm.
was in, and the intimidating thing in meeting her was like, what do I call her? Do I call her Queen? And she was great, and she's super talented and has developed even more talented as an actor, over time.
Her
So there's
voice.
so many, man, so many, Tim.
Okay. So would you say
How
acting
many?
is like the next progression of comedy? Is like
No, I think it's something that some people can do and some people can't. I think there are some people, like me. I think I'm a great comic. I'm not that great an actor. I tell my agent all the time, find how bad actors get work. I want to be that guy. When you're watching something, you're like, how the hell did he get that job? I want that job. I want to be that. I want to be the example of a bad actor. Like, how is he in this movie? And like, yeah, I want to be that guy. So, and then there are some who are great actors, but stand up isn't they're not great stand ups. They're okay stand ups, or they leave stand up and they just go into acting because that was always their first love. And then the real brilliant ones are the ones who can do both and bounce back and forth.
Right. Yeah. Larry David, I remember just being a terrible stand-up and
Right.
being a great actor, great writer.
Right. He found what that's what he wants to do. I mean, when Ken Jeong went into acting, I think he stopped doing stand up for like at least 5-6 years or whatever, and just to know I'm acting now. And so, and then others, if you're a real stand up, you have to do it. You have to do it. Then that's why no matter how many movies Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle or whatever they're always doing stand up also, because it's so in them that they have to do it. Even Seinfeld, right after Seinfeld, made $500 million. It was like, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to go back to stand up and I have to get good again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
For
so
sure.
yeah.
Well, who has questions? I know everybody's just waiting to ask questions, so go right
I
on.
have a question. Oh, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I don't. I'm gonna make it hard. I wanted to. You're on a political show. It sounds like you've always been a news junkie. Is that what
Yes,
you're like? You've always been.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, do you feel like what have you observed for like tensity and from your perch in the country's tension and like people being on opposite sides? Like, is it your fault? A, and B, like, how have you seen being on Wait, Don't Tell Me?
You know, here's the thing. It's different questions here. We live in two countries, unfortunately. We have separated. You might want to call it red versus blue, or the coast versus the middle. I say it's the coast and the middle, and then the south is a whole nother thing. But because of our news sources, because you can get the news that you want to hear, we live in different realities, right? So that's one of the big problems. And the other thing is we've somehow politically, Congress, the Senate, et cetera, has reached a point where any compromise is considered a loss. So there's zero compromise. So that's one of the big problems. The thing with doing stand-up, doing shows like Wait, they say, oh, this is left-wing comedy, blah, blah. No, the right wing doesn't come out. The angry part of the right wing, the ones who figure, you know, I'm going to the Capitol, I should probably bring a machine gun, you know, they ain't going to comedy shows. Then listen, we joke about it. If they knew about Wait, they'd cut the funding, but they have no idea that show even exists. So, but there's other comedy that they have. There are right-wing comics, and then there are comics who are just not political at all. As far as comedy goes, the guys who have had the roughest time, let's say in the Trump era, even up to prior to the pandemic, the white male comics who are not right-wing, because people go to their shows and they're like, he's one of us, and then they find out, oh, he's not one of us, and then they have some kind of you know, as the kids say, they feel some kind of way about him. So that's what, if you come to my show, if you see my picture, you're pretty confident this ain't going to be a Trump guy. Right. So I don't have to deal with that much. You know, does that answer your questions?
Well, yeah. Thank you.
That's been my experience. Yeah.
We have a question from comedian Tom Roche. He can't use his audio because his family's having some kind of party right now. But he has two questions for you. One is, what is your favorite Marvel hero? I don't know. Do you belong to Marvel or DC, or do you care?
I'm a comic book nut. The Hulk is my guy. The Hulk is my favorite.
All right. Yes. I hope that answered your question, Tom.
Perfect.
And Tim likes that too. His second question is, when this pandemic is over, hypothetically, do you know of any advantage when it comes to doing stand-up in New York versus Chicago versus LA? I've done research on this myself, but I need to go somewhere where I can exercise this every day.
I tell all comics to go to New York. New York is the biggest comedy city. Comedy moved. When I started in the 90s, comedy was in LA, and everyone was coming to LA and they wanted to get a sitcom and this and that. And I think in the early 2000s, it moved to New York. And the great thing about New York is a couple of things. One, there are so many clubs and stages, and hopefully they survive this financially, so you can do a lot of spots. The other thing, New York audiences are the best because all they care about is it funny? Their feelings don't get hurt. They don't care what topic you talk about or whatever. You know, you can do a homeless joke on a train full of homeless people in New York, and if it's funny, they're gonna laugh. If it's not funny, they're gonna let you know. So I love New York for that reason, that you can just go for it.
That's awesome. Leah Loftus.
Wow, so many people here.
Yeah.
I got to shout out. Yeah, no, I'm just going to shout out. Young Lee is on here. Yep. I got to say what's up to him. My buddy Smokey from up in Seattle, what's up, Smoke? I'm just shouting out people. Carol Long, thank you. I
Yep.
see Ramon is here. Good for you, Ramon. You stole a computer. Anyway, Angel Galati, he's a friend of mine. DJ Crash. Crash was with us at Dublin's when I talked about watching Dane become Dane. Dublin's in the early 2000s was the hottest comedy spot in LA. I was so happy to be a part of it. So I'm just shouting out a few friends. Thank you all for being here. Go ahead with your questions.
That's great. Just talking about music, also going back to Ramon and like the fact that you're doing these jazz cruises, that seems like an incredible crossover that many comedians don't get to make. So what's the secret here? You're kind of doing your,
Jazz and comedy have a long history, long history. Originally, comedy was done in jazz clubs before there were comedy clubs. You know, when you had like Dick Gregory performing at the Playboy Club, and although and believe me, I get it, but I think one of the tragedies of Bill Cosby, separate from his behavior, is the destruction of his history and reputation. But Cosby used to open for Miles Davis, you know, like this was the history. So I get to work with guys like Marcus Miller and Robert Glasper and just there's so many I've worked with. You know, I was friends with George Duke. That always struck me as ridiculous.
That's amazing.
What the hell am I doing knowing George Duke? But getting to open for these guys, Gerald Albright and Dave Koz and just all the different types of jazz, Boney James. These are creative people. Patty Austin, an incredible jazz singer, gave me one of my highest compliments when I was doing a show on a jazz cruise, and I'm just riffing, I'm making fun of musicians and just improvising in a moment. And she yelled, "That's jazz." She's like, "What you're doing right now, that is jazz." And that felt so good to come from her, you know. And by the way, Patty Austin started a story. She said, "Yeah, I met Quincy when I was 9." And I was like, stop right there. You cannot start a story with you met Quincy Jones when you were 9 years old. So I tell everyone when I'm on a cruise, I'm the fan with the best seat in the house because I get to sit backstage and listen to them talk and share things and so on. I so love it.
Awesome. And I think Ms. Erica has a question. Erica, you got a question?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. I don't know. I'm with the state of comedy, like this pandemic basically put it on a halt. How long do you think it's going to be even after we slowly come out of this before stand-up?
It hasn't put it on a halt. We're doing stuff like this. I am doing Thursday night. I'm doing a show. We have a virtual comedy club. It's called the nowherecomedyclub.com. That's a promo, people. Nowherecomedyclub.com. Get your tickets Thursday night. And we're doing it that way. Where comics are live streaming from the Laugh Factory. Laugh Factory does a live stream show every day at 2:00. We're doing Zoom meetings. We're doing podcasts. Let me tell you, we comics, we're the last truth tellers, okay? We're the last ones that's going to tell the truth. We ain't going nowhere. We just have to adapt.
Transition.
We'll be back. We'll be back on stage, but no, comedy's not going anywhere. We got a lot to say. Always remember, and I have a big, you can't really see it, but I have a big tattoo right here of the court jester, because the jester was the only guy who could speak truth to power. The jester could make fun of the king, but if it wasn't funny, they'd chop off his head, and I like that. So they're telling you, you're allowed to say it, but it has to be funny. But we expect you to tell the truth, you know? I got to give a shout out to Trevor Noah. I know Trevor. I got to work on the show briefly. We contractually couldn't make it work, blah, blah, blah. I live in LA. But Trevor's been paying his crew out of his pocket. That's who comics are. Comics, like, and he didn't tell any, like, it got out. It wasn't like he said, "Hey, listen to what a great guy I am." There are so many comics doing stuff like that, man. I had, there's just a lot of comics who are being very generous, you know, right now. And, you know, Brad Garrett, I was booked in his club. And of course, the MGM in Vegas is closed and this and that. And he actually called me. He said, "You all right?" And I was like, "Yeah, Brad, I'm good." But I bet if I told Brad, like, "No, man, I'm hungry," you know, he'd have sent me $5 at least $5 for a Happy Meal. Because I'm kidding about that. He's super generous. And I know a bunch of comics who are like that. And there's a big fundraiser coming up next Saturday night with you know, Eddie Murphy and Adam Sandler and Tiffany and just on and on. But before that, nowherecomedyclub.com, Thursday night. Get Alonzo
Okay.
Bodden tickets. I'm just
But
saying.
if you were gonna guess though, if you're gonna take a guess, when do you think, or do you think it's gonna return to the way it was, where we're sitting all in a room and there's a stage and a mic?
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know how long before we're all in a room. I'm guessing they're going to start. And listen, they're experimenting. They're testing the waters. I think Georgia opened too soon, and I feel bad for people who got sick. But I'm going to guess starting in summer and then going into the fall. I talked to a guy out of Vegas, and he was saying, and he said, comedy will be one of the early things to come back because you can easily social distance a comedy show.
Mhm.
He said, with a music show, you got the musicians on stage, you got a crew, he said, you could put a comic outside with a microphone and a speaker and have people sit 6 feet apart and do a comedy show. So I think comedy can come back.
Okay.
Hopefully it will, but we're doing different things. I was talking to Chris Titus.
Get out of my camera.
Titus is
you.
setting up something right now
Get out.
that's going to be, she's right there. She ain't going nowhere.
Erica, your mic is on. We can hear you hollering at your daughter.
I'm sorry.
Oops.
Titus is setting up, a virtual club / live stream situation where there are going to be a few people there live, but it's also going to be broadcast. There's another comic who I love and person who I love, Chris Titus. I don't know what's above type A. That's what Chris Titus is. Unlimited energy. He's on Twitter crushing trolls constantly, and in his spare time building studios. I don't know how this guy does it.
Yeah, well, feel free to plug all of the things, because I know you have a podcast, you have a few shows. Yep.
My podcast is on the All Things Comedy Network, and it's called Who's Paying Attention? And it's a weekly me just going through the news and looking for what bothers me and talking about it. It started out with me talking about the stories behind the jokes, but now it's just basically, apparently some people like hearing my opinions, and I so appreciate that. On Amazon, I have a streaming special called Heavy Lightweight. It's the last comedy special I did. And as I've been joking about, but it is going to be fun, a comic named Mal Hall, young comic who we work together on the road a lot. He and I are doing a show, the Nowhere Comedy Club, Thursday night. And you just go to nowherecomedyclub.com and you can get tickets. I think they're $10 to $15. And yeah, and it's great. So I'm fortunate that I am working a lot and hustling, and it's changing, but I'm trying to adapt with it.
Well, Will Stein is giving you mad props on all of your stuff, saying
you,
that
Will.
your podcast is
Thank you.
great. Yeah, and also you also have something on Netflix, or no, is it Amazon? It's the Amazon
Heavy
special.
Lightweight.
Heavy Lightweight 2016.
And Inside Jokes. Inside Jokes was Kim talking about Just for Laughs. Amazon followed 6 comics from their audition to New Faces in Montreal at Just for Laughs, and I was hosting New Faces that year. So I got to be part of that, and I got to tell them what it's like on the other side after, making New Faces, getting all the breaks and making it firmly to the middle, which I've done. Just firmly to the middle. No, I'm kidding. I love this job.
Well, you're great at it. I just want to know, I know you were traveling just about, there were hardly any days that you were ever home. I remember that you were saying, like, I travel all the time. And so how has your life changed now that you're not traveling? What is life like at home for you?
Initially, it was very weird to not be going to the airport on the weekends.
Right.
I haven't gone this long without flying. I've been home since March 14th. In the last 20 years, I don't think I've ever been home this long. I'm learning things about, they don't move yet. Somehow they have problems. So I've got a leak on a roof I got to fix. The other day, Laura, I was killing weeds. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. But so I've been around the house. I get to ride my motorcycle a lot more, which that I do love. The motorcycles are the ultimate social distancing vehicle, and it's my taste of sanity. So I'm happy to get to ride and do that. And a lot of streaming. I just finished the last season of Power last night. you know, got to catch up on Ray Donovan. I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to the new season of Billions. I saw the Tiger King when he was a prince. All right, I was way ahead of. No, I saw that the first weekend it came out, and I was like, "What the hell?" And then by about 2 weeks later, the whole country was like, "What the hell?" So there's that, and I like to read. We were talking about. Let me see. I don't know what I did with it. I'm looking for something to show Tim. Hang on, Tim. I got it here somewhere.
All right.
We were just talking. I can't find it, but we were talking about the Hulk. I'm reading a 1,000-page book about the Hulk. 10 years. Ah, here it is.
Wow.
See that, Tim?
Oh,
See
wow.
that? That's 10 years of Hulk in one book.
Yeah.
So I've been reading that.
That's
Is that
incredible.
Wolverine on the front?
It's all
No, that's the
pictures.
Hulk.
It's all
okay.
pictures.
I'm gonna nerd out on you, Tim. Did you know the Hulk was gray for a period?
He
Did you
was
know about the
gray. He was
Hulk?
gray.
Yeah, there you go.
And he
Do
was
you know?
dark green, and that's when
Yes.
he gets, yeah.
You
Okay.
know.
Yeah. You know, I know.
This is so disappointing. We hate this part of Tim. And now we're gonna have to validate
Score,
it
win,
somehow.
see?
We
No,
can't
now it's
help
my
it,
turn.
Tim.
Just fine.
Tim had
can't
his
help it.
moment.
I did have my moment.
Lauren, did you want to ask me something? Fire away.
Well, my moment is when I start doing astrology readings for all the guests. But we only have 4 minutes left, so we're going to skip that this time.
Okay,
Okay.
and here's Laura. Remember I told you how funny my mom
Yeah.
was? Which, I mean, just hilarious. So I was dating a girl who did astrology charts. And she said, "What time were you born?" And I was like, "I don't know." She said, "Well, call your mother. Find out what time you're born." And I called my mom. I said, "Mom, what time I was born?" She said, "What? That was a long time ago. You think I remember that?" That was my mother.
Oh my gosh. Well, how many children were there? There's probably
Three
a
of us.
few. Three.
Three of
Okay.
us.
All
No,
right.
my mom would forget my birthday, and I'd
Oh.
be like, "Mom, you remember? Lots of yelling and screaming, people all over the place. You were the center of attention. What happened?" She would make me laugh. My mom had just, it was a matter of fact thing about life that made me laugh. My favorite joke memory with my mom, and inappropriate, totally inappropriate humor was fine. So she grew up down south, South Carolina. If you've ever been to a Southern Black funeral, you know it is a production. There's music, there's hollering, there's screaming. So we're there, and you know they're, "Oh, take me, Lord! Oh, Lord, he's too young. Take me!" My mother was like, "They're yelling, 'Take me,' but you don't see him jumping in that hole now, do you?" Now you ain't supposed to laugh at a funeral. I was laughing at a funeral. So yeah,
Oh my goodness.
I miss Mom. She was funny.
Well, the apple doesn't
And
fall far from the
happy
tree.
Mother's Day to all the moms.
Thank
We're
you.
a week
you.
early.
You too,
So
Tim.
next Sunday.
Uh,
No, Tim. No, Tim.
Happy Mother's
No.
Day, Tim.
No, Tim, you don't get that.
You know, I ain't even got kids, man.
Me neither. Me
I
neither.
got
And no one
people.
believes that.
I got-
No
You're
one
I
still
got
a
believes
mother.
Well,
you know,
that's
see how
between
they
you and
you
them.
know what? Nobody likes a winner. Nobody likes a winner.
You got to be funny or be right, right? Oh my gosh.
I
What
have one question. I mean, we got a couple minutes.
Yes, fire
So
away.
this is like for we have a lot of comedians listening, and obviously, you know, we all, you know, look up to you and want to be like you. So what is your writing process?
When something strikes me as funny, I write about it.
Okay.
Now it used to be the yellow pad and the notebooks, and now I use notes on my iPhone because I always have it with me, and it's easy to categorize stuff and find stuff there. But yeah, so I will write down the idea, or I'll write down, "Oh, this is funny, blah blah blah," and then I'll go on stage and start talking about it. An interesting thing now is when I do these online shows and virtual shows, everything is untested because I had no audience to try it for. So I just throw it out there, and either it's going to be funny or it's not.
Okay.
There you go. Well, Alonzo Bodden, what can I say? This has been such a treat for us. I could probably sit here and I want you to come back a zillion more times so we could talk more. So many questions that we had, but thank you so much for being here. Again, let's plug all the shows. I know you have the Nowhere Comedy Club, which is a digital comedy club with audience laughter, right? People can laugh.
Yes.
Yep.
That's on Thursday night, May 7th. Who's Paying Attention? You can find on all podcasts. platforms, but it's part of the All Things Comedy Network. It's on iTunes, et cetera, et cetera. My Instagram is ZoFunny, ZoFunny, and everything else is at Alonzo Bodden. I use my actual name. So I tell everyone, all you have to do is Google Comic Alonzo, and it's going to be either me or Christella Alonzo, and I'm the taller one.
Kim, your fan is so loud.
I know.
Oh, sorry,
You
my
getting
bad.
the vapors? You getting the vapors?
Kim's actually fanning the microphone.
I'm sorry, my bad.
I think that's why I didn't pick you on Last Comic Standing.
Oh,
she doesn't know how to use a microphone. Sorry, Kim, but it was right there, and I take cheap shots. I can't help it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
That was hateful. Damn.
Jesse Bade, I want to give a shout out to Jesse and the CAAW people. So I'm just doing this at random.
That's great. Comedy is a weapon. CAAW.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's Tim, Lauren, and Kim.
I also want to give a shout out to Carmen Rivera and Joseph Lovett, who always check in with us every week. No matter what we do, they always support. So I want to send a shout out to them.
Yes, and Erica Nolan.
I love this. I'm just jumping in, but this is what we were talking about, Laura. Kevin Sharp said, Alonzo, I didn't know your face, but I recognize your voice from listening to Wait, Wait. And TYT. Shout out to the Young Turks, TYT.
Yeah.
And will all the TYT people listen? I'm sorry Bernie lost, but please support Biden. Please, I know you don't agree with him, but think about the judges. Think about the courts. We got to put the right judges in. There's so many other things. So I know you don't like him. He's not the greatest, but please support.
It's not representative of the Quarantine Calling Show. It's not a politics show.
I know, but Kevin, see, Alonzo Bodden is saying it. It's okay. Listen. I feel the same way. Anybody else?
Peter Jones, a motorcycle buddy and a brilliant writer. If you want to do some reading, just go to Amazon, look up Peter Jones. He's got all his columns from motorcycle magazines in a book. So I'm going to keep talking, Laura, till you shut me up. So
well, wait, do we have time for one last?
Yeah,
fire away.
Okay. So
as
here
long
it
as
is.
you're good, yeah.
What is your advice to comedians in the middle of a pandemic?
Keep working, keep creating. A friend of mine, Debbie Gutierrez, another great comic, she was telling me that her husband, who's I think I don't even know what he does, but he was like working on scripts and this and that. And she said he got furloughed from a job and he just came home and started writing a script. And then he was helping her develop this show that she's doing, a cooking Instagram show. And she said, he never stopped creating. So just create. If there's a lot of forums out here like this and Instagram and this and that. And listen, I get lazy. I'm not a great social media person, this and that. But when I have the idea, I write a joke and I do these interviews and I get to talk. If you're earlier in your career, you may not have as much access to a screen or whatever. Write, collaborate with your friends, go to a Zoom meeting with other comics and just clown around and laugh. Just keep working. Find something. It may not be money work. It may just be work. I promise you, someone's going to come up with a hit sitcom out of this that maybe didn't have one or didn't have an idea, but something happened. You're alone with your dog all day. Talk to your dog. He's got something funny to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we're all going to say goodnight. Y'all have any last words?
Wait. Yes, I do. One more shout out. And this one is huge. Gene Williams, he's on right now. Okay. And you can go on Facebook, you look for Gene Williams. He and I grew up together. We met each other when we were literally about 3 or 4 years old. Well, now he lives in China and he's doing these live and videos like this, showing life in China after the pandemic. In other words, he's steps ahead of us. He lives outside of Shanghai. So he did one where he first went out and they had cut back on wearing masks. And he recently did one of shopping. So I love watching it because it's like, oh, so this is how it comes back step by step. So look for Gene Williams. I'm saying what's up to you here. If you go to my Facebook page or if you just look up Gene Williams on Facebook, you can see his videos. His music and his art is brilliant. The guy does great cartoons and all of that stuff. But it's hope. His videos to me are hope. because he's living on the other side of it. So check him out. And if you're from New York, he apologizes because he did one video where he just went in on New York because he was like, New York, you're letting me down. It's where we grew up. He's like, what are you afraid of? You're New York. Stand up, be tough. It was really funny. But yeah, check him out. It's great stuff.
He loves it. He's just saying hi to you right now. He's watching. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. This was a great show. Stay tuned for next Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the Quarantine Call-In Show. Thank you, Alonzo Bodden.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you, Alonzo. See everybody later. Thank you.
Any U.S. citizen returning to the United States will be subject to up to 14 days of mandatory quarantine.
We got that vaccine, third eye clean, we Visine. Dancing off the top rope, we Dougie off them high beams. Running hard like track meets, debutantes in back seats. Niacin for clear peas, my piss test with 5. Double parks on planet Mars, they surf the net, we surf the stars. Quarantine in Zanzibar, breathing on the masses.